Hello, homeowners. Brian Schwatka here, Realtor and Transition Specialist with Keller Williams Bay Area Estates in Los Gatos. I've been a Realtor and Transition Specialist for over 20 years, solely helping homeowners decide if they should stay in their homes, age in place with in-home care services, or transition to a retirement community. And I'm sure you're probably thinking, if this is a Realtor, why would he want me to stay in my home rather than selling my home and moving to a retirement community? I just want to assure you that my purpose in life is solely to help homeowners make the best decisions for their future, whether they're staying or whether they're going. And that's why I created the Stay or Go Homeowner System. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick little presentation. It's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? A clear path forward. And so what this is going to do, it's going to help you think clearly about your next chapter. Now I want you to know this is two presentations combined into one. The first part of the presentation is the psychology of your transition, not about deciding whether to stay or whether to go, but just understanding why we're all similar in what we're going through. And the second part of the presentation is should I stay or should I go? How to decide. So let's get started with the psychology of your transition. And my goal for today, really, as I said at the beginning, I'm here to help you make the best decisions for your future. But what I really want you to understand is why this decision just feels so darn difficult, and to help you think clearly about the crossroads and your decision. And the crossroads, you may be coming up to a crossroad in your life. You may be at a crossroad of your life, or you may be past that crossroad. Hopefully you didn't get too far past that crossroad, because then there's some repercussions that go along with waiting too long. Also, what I want to do is I want to reduce your fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I want to give you clarity, certainty, and confidence, and I want to reduce your stress, okay? Now, the way I reduce stress is by education and preparation. That reduces your stress, like a Cub Scout. You need to be educated, you need to be prepared, and I found that there are 3 stages of your transition. The first stage of your transition is you're just sort of considering things. You're deciding on things. You know, the house isn't appropriate anymore. Your friends are kind of moving away. You're needing a little bit more assistance. You're dipping the toe in the water of just kind of thinking, should I stay? Should I go? What's best for me? You're just getting started. And if we were here in person, I would say, everybody raise your hand if you're in this stage. Now, the second stage of your transition is understanding how it all works. Once you're, let's say, 51% off the fence where you know you're probably going, you need to understand what is involved in making this transition and how does it all work? What happens before I'm on the waiting list at a retirement community? What happens once I get on the waiting list? What happens when I choose my apartment and move in? And then what happens when I sell the home, which is stage 3, which means you're preparing and you're ready to go. Okay? Now, these are the 3 stages of your transition. I'm not sure which stage you're in, but I'm pretty sure that no matter what stage you're in, you're always going to be second guessing yourself to make absolutely positively sure that you really do want to go. And so what we do, and what we're going to go through in this presentation, is the Stay or Go framework. It's a 5-step process, and we'll get into that later, but that's what we're going to be covering today. Now, what I want to do first is I want to just slow down a bit. I want to just clear your mind. I know you came in today with a bunch of things on your mind. This is really about clearing your mind, and take a nice deep breath. Lower your shoulders. Think about, all of those things you came in here with, all of the taxes and the kids and the downsizing in the house and the medical issues. Just put them in a box. Just set the box aside. That box will be there as soon as we're done. But we need you to just clear your mind, open your heart, take a deep breath. And I want to just start out with something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's very important in your considering, in your decision-making process. It's about having a mental attitude. So I would ask you, what do all of these people have in common? You might say, well, they're rich and they're famous and they're good looking and, all of those different things. But really, what they have in common is they have a growth mindset. Okay. They don't buy into the whole ageism thing and the whole marketing out there on the TV and the radio, and everybody's talking about, oh, you're getting older and you're getting more wrinkles and you're not seeing as well or hearing as well or walking as well. All of these different things, they get you in this mindset, this decline mindset. And we can't have a decline mindset when we're thinking about the next chapter of our life, and we want the next chapter of our life to be the best chapter of our life, right? So there's a growth mindset and there's a decline mindset. We want to stay away from a decline mindset. We want a growth mindset, which says, I have a decline in some areas of my life, but I have improvement in other areas of my life, right? I mean, I'm getting things done. I'm getting out there. Um, there's nothing I can do to stop it, right? The quality of my life in a growth mindset says it's up to me and I can change it. I can do something about it. I have a choice in the matter. It's not just in God's hands and, this is just the deck I've been dealt, the hand I've been dealt. It's up to you and you can change it. And also, another attitude to have is, instead of saying, who can help me, maybe how I can help others, right? And you do have a choice of this growth mindset. And I just threw up a picture here of my friend Kate. She's 95 years old. We meet on a monthly basis for coffee to just kind of catch up. She definitely has a growth mindset. Her motto is love and service. And, when I get there, she's laid up. She's not very mobile. Her legs are, swollen and, you know, but she is in a mindset of, how can I help others? It's amazing. In fact, she's still to this day interviewing new residents that come to the community up on the stage, and she interviews them so that everybody can get to know the new resident. So it's just a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to have, is this growth mindset. And I just come across the book. It's called Joy Span, and it totally changed the way I see aging and ageism, right? And it talks about how joy can actually be shaped and created. And there's 4 kind of steps to that. You want that growth mindset and you want to be adaptive, right? You want to be getting out there, doing things, making things happen, making changes, facing your fears, removing those fears, uncertainties, and doubts, and just go with it. Just move and adapt with your new joyful mindset. Another thing that adds joy to your life, and you can shape the joy of your life, is your connections and the community. Both your current connections with people you know and love, growing those relationships, making new relationships, maybe at a retirement community or whatnot. But this is very important to your joy, not only growth and adaptation, but connection and community, and also your daily environment really affects how you're feeling on a regular basis, right? Where do you live? Does it bring you joy? Does it bring you frustration? Have you outlived that? But where you actually reside really affects your joy. And lastly, you need stimulation and support. You need purpose in your life, doing things for other people, not just having other people do things for you. And so that gives you a purpose. And this book, I would strongly recommend you at least reading the first chapter of this book, Joy Span, which is just amazing. So if joy can be created, joy can also be hindered, and it can be hindered by isolation. Isolation is a huge epidemic in the world right now. I don't know if you've been reading this on the internet, social media, in the news. A lot of people are isolated, and isolation isn't just I'm bored. Isolation has also physical challenges that go with it. You might have a mental health decline. You might have a physical health decline because of isolation. You may have a cognitive decline. You may have reduced access to support because there's limited health care when you're isolated, and you're going to miss out on a bunch of socialization. All this is very important to your joy. And if you don't have this and you are isolated, you're going to hinder your joy. And that's the last thing we want to happen. So, out of all of that, and you're thinking, Yeah, that's a lot to think about, and I'm not there yet. But as it relates to should I stay or should I go, you get stuck on the fence, right? You're thinking, well, maybe I'll just stay in my home agent place. It just seems so much easier. It seems cheaper. Everything's going fine. I love my home. I love my neighbors. I love where my doctor is and my church and all of the parks and things like that. But then again, I'm also thinking of making that transition to a retirement community, but then I'm going to have to change things and downsize things, and it's just kind of a hassle, and maybe it's too expensive. So we do get stuck on the fence, right? Let's say we're 50% on the fence. And here's some reasons why we get stuck on the fence. It's because you are emotionally attached to that home. That's a real good reason to be stuck on the fence, right? Another thing is you're kind of have this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or this fear or regret of making mistakes, and there's consequences to our mistakes. We don't want to outlive our funds. That's a huge one. That's why you might be stuck, because you're like, geez, I don't know. Should I stay? Should I go? Because I need to know if I what I can do financially. I don't want to burden my friends and family and other people who can support me. I don't know really about retirement communities, and what if I don't like the retirement community? What if I change my mind? What if I don't like the food? What if my dog doesn't like the food? What if my dog doesn't like another dog? There's so many things that can hook you or snag you up, and you don't want to lose your independence, right? So I want to tell you, you're not lazy in being stuck on the fence. Um, Letting go is very difficult, and your best chapter is ahead, or it should be ahead. I mean, you've deserved it. You have a lot to give and a lot to offer. So, what I want to do is I want to help you navigate this crossroad of your home ownership, and sooner or later, we're going to have to actually decide whether to stay or go. And how do we decide whether to stay or go? Well, we're going to go back to our 3 stages of our transition. We're currently in stage 1. You're just considering it. You're just thinking about it. I might want to go. And we're going to go stage 1. Step 1 is your vision. Okay. The first step of the framework is your vision. So let's get into the vision part of the presentation. Now, imagine if I gave you a blank box, white box, nothing on the cover. It was a puzzle. And you're probably thinking, gosh, that must be a polar bear in a snowstorm, because there's no picture on the box. And you open the box and there's no picture on the pieces either. And so I'm sure there's a lot of puzzle doers out there. My wife's a big puzzle girl. And she's so good that she wouldn't even really need a picture on the box to get started on the puzzle, because she would go about finding all of the 4 corners and all of the flat edges, and she could actually put the let's call it the frame of the puzzle together. But she could not finish the puzzle without a picture on the front of the box. And so our first step, our first thing we need to do, is we need to kind of figure out and think about what your vision of the future actually looks like. So what does your puzzle picture look like? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise. That exercise is called the postcard from the future. And what you're doing in your postcard from the future is you're writing a letter from the future to your current self. Okay, and I'll use me for an example. Brian, here's what I do every day now. Okay, because I'm in the future. Here's what I do every day. Um, here's what I do on a regular Tuesday. I'm not really on vacation. How do I wake up? Who am I spending time with? What feels lighter? Is my world expanding or shrinking? Am I getting a growth mindset? And I'm writing this letter to myself, and it's wonderful. You're going to write your own letter, and I wrote my letter, and I read it all the time, and I get excited about thinking about my future of here's what it looks like. Here's what the puzzle box picture looks like, right? And I can say to myself, Brian, I'm here in the future. I've got new friendships. I'm doing more hobbies. I'm getting educated. I'm taking classes. I'm exercising. I'm traveling. I'm spending more time with the family than I used to. I've got just a simpler kind of life. I have purpose in my life. And you know what? I've eliminated from my life home maintenance, stuff to downsize. loneliness, isolation, all my technology questions and insurance paperwork and solicitors coming to my door. They're not coming to my door anymore. They're not trying to sell me solar for my home. I'm not cooking as much or cleaning as much, and I've removed the uncertainty from my life. So, this postcard from the future is wonderful because A, it's going to get you excited about where you're going, and B, it's going to help you make decisions. Let me give you an example. So, if you have choice A and choice B, and choice A would make sense if you didn't have a postcard from the future because it would be a knee jerk response. Hey, that's what I think, and that's my decision. But when you do have a postcard from the future, you can actually say to yourself, I have two choices. I have the choice now, the obvious choice, and I have my postcard from the future choice. Okay, let me give you an example. So imagine here's the scenario. You're living your daily life at home, but it's becoming a little bit harder. You're having not wanting to cook as much or do grocery shopping. There's a lot of things going on. And choice A, the obvious choice would be, I'll just bring in some caregivers into the home. Well, that might not match your postcard from the future. And you might say to yourself, you know what? Choice B, my postcard choice, maybe I should move somewhere designed for the next stage of my life. Now, we're talking about retirement communities here. So obviously, this is your other choice. You could stay at home or you can go to a retirement community. So you do have some homework to do. Take your time, get to just jot down some bullet points and whatnot. And I give you a little tip is the fact that when I did this for the first time, I wrote our postcard from the future and I got all excited and I went to my wife and I said, look, honey, here's our postcard from the future. And she said, well, that's nice, honey. It doesn't really look like my postcard from the future. It looks like your postcard from the future. So if you're with somebody, you might want to both do one and then do some compromising there. But you can use this to help you make those decisions. I just did one in-home care versus retirement communities, but let's say you were remodeling your kitchen. Should I remodel it? Well, sure, it makes sense today because I can have a nice kitchen. But choice B is I'm not even going to be here that long. Why would I remodel my kitchen? So these are ways of you to think I don't only have just one choice. I have two choices, and I want you to be thinking in the future, does this decision that I'm making point me to my ideal future? So good luck with that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Stay or Go workbook at the end, and it has this exercise in the Stay or Go workbook. All right, so we were done with our vision step of the framework. Okay, now let's go to our next step of the framework, which was a reality check, right? Where do you stand today in your home ownership? So you're going to do a homeowner evaluation. I'm going to ask you 5 questions in each of these 5 areas: your financial situation, your health, your support network of the people who are ready, willing, and able to take care of you, your trust and taxes, we don't like that, and your real estate, your form, fit, and function of your real estate. So let's get into the self-assessment or the self-evaluation of your home ownership. So here's just a first example of the first category. It's your financial situation. You'll see this exercise in the Stay or Go workbook, and it'll just ask you these 5 questions and you answer them honestly. I know what my monthly income and expenses are. I'm cash flow positive. I have an investment portfolio. I can afford to pay for skilled nursing and in-home care. I have a formal financial plan. What you'll do is you'll add up all of the number of yeses you've got. In this case, this person isn't as strong as you might think because they just scored a 2. And then you'll go through the other categories. You'll answer 5 questions in each of those categories. And then you will then chart your results to see where you're strong, where you're weak, where you need help, where you're imbalanced. Some people might look like this. Some people might look like this. But overall, you'll get a real feel. You'll get your finger on the pulse of where you really stand in these 5 areas. Super, super important. Okay, so we're done with the reality check, and I'm going kind of fast, but I don't want to keep you too long, and I want to get you to the Stay or Go workbook or the Stay or Go questionnaire. The next stage or step in the framework is what are your options? Okay? What are the paths available to you? Staying at home or going to a retirement community. So let's get into this. What are your options? You can stay, age in place, in-home care, stay in your current home. I just want you to make sure that you actually can physically and financially stay in that home. Okay? Another option might be, downsize to a smaller home, single story, less maintenance, it's safer, it's not 3-car garage, 3-story swimming pool in the back, 5 bedrooms, that kind of a thing. Another option would be to transition to a remodeled home. Maybe you're done with your Pepto-Bismol tile in the kitchen and you don't want to live through a remodel, right? So maybe you go to another home. Maybe you go to a 55 plus active adult living community and dip your toe in the water to see what a retirement community is actually like. We can talk about that further in another presentation. You can relocate out of the area, maybe to your vacation home, rental home, somewhere less expensive. There are just so many different creative ideas of aging in place within home care, but it's just that. It's that bucket. You are going to be sort of isolated. You are going to be dependent upon in-home care service, or you can transition to the retirement community. Either way, fine with me, helping you make the best decisions for your future. Transitioning to a retirement community, there are different types of retirement communities. There's independent living communities, assisted living communities, skilled nursing communities, memory care communities, or the coup de grace or the Holy Grail, which is the continuing care retirement community, which has all 4 levels of care on the same campus. Very, very good for couples, very, very good for your future, not moving around. You're going to stay at one community for the second half of your life. There's 2 ways to pay. There are month-to-month communities, which is just like a rental. If you run out of funds, they ask you to leave. Or you can do what's called an entrance fee with a month-to-month, which includes what's called a benevolence fund. And the benevolence fund is saying that because you did pay an entrance fee, you will never be asked to leave. And so those are the 2, different options you have. Now, there are only 2 choices here. You're either staying or you're going. And the 2 most important goals in making a decision is your financial confidence or not outliving your funds, and your, to maintain your independence or to not burden others. So let's talk first about the financial confidence end of things. Let's talk about what it costs to stay or whether you want to go. Okay. So on the left, we have our stay column, age in place within home care services. In-home care services are not inexpensive. They're about $50 per hour. And let's say, just for an example, if you needed one caregiver for 3 hours a day, it would cost you an extra $50,000 a year. And I don't know if we all have an extra $50,000 of cash flow every year. So you might want to think, how am I going to get those funds? Now, when you cross the red line and you go from independent to needing assisted or deemed assisted living, those costs for the care are going to go up, right? One caregiver for 6 hours a day, that's an extra $100,000 a year. You need them for 12 hours a day, $200,000. Round the clock could be $400,000 a year extra cash flow. Not a lot of us have that, and I don't know how many years you could do that. Now, in addition to those costs, you'll also be paying extra for any sort of skilled care or memory care. Your prices are going to double if you need to be moved around. If you're a larger person, maybe 150 pounds or more, you're going to need 2 caregivers. And then if you are needing them for more than 8 hours, you're going to be having to pay some overtime. Now, if that's not bad enough, you are still remaining in your home. So you might have a mortgage or you might not, but you're still going to have your maintenance, your utilities, your property taxes, your insurance, your meals and entertainment, and all of that. So all of those costs are very expensive, and you have to say to yourself, do I have the cash flow available to pay for that? Now, the other option, if you were going and if you were selling your home, you'd be a millionaire. You'd be going to a retirement community. They have different types of units at the retirement community: studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, cottages, villas, and you might pay extra for an extra person. Those costs may differ depending on the community that you go to, but I can guarantee you they're far less than what we just talked about as far as staying in your home, paying for in-home care, and not having the cash flow. Now, on the right, you're talking about going. There are still extra fees for skilled and memory care, but the fact is you're no longer going to be paying for your mortgage, for your insurance, for your maintenance, for your upgrades, and all of those things. And as a millionaire now, you will definitely have the cash flow to pay for your care for the rest of your life. So that was the first one. We wanted to talk about the costs. Now, the second is not burdening other people. Now, not burdening other people, I know the kids are telling you, hey, we got you, mom and dad. We're ready, willing, and able to take care of you. But I would assume that your kids are probably 50, 60 years old. They're still thinking about their kids and their jobs and their responsibilities. And it's very interesting, very difficult to care for someone, even though you really want to. It takes a toll on a caregiver. So they are thinking, well, we better hire in-home care. Now, the in-home care industry right now is on complete overload. It's one of the fastest growing services in the United States today. There's a shortage of workers. 50% of the time, you're going to be turned away when you call because they have a lack of caregivers, right? The turnover rate is probably 40 to 50, 60%. There's no consistency on who you're going to get. Are you going to get the same person every time? You're going to get a different person every time. There's security issues. Did I leave my watch there? They're living in my home. They're listening to my phone calls. It's a very uncomfortable situation. So I wouldn't want to, I guess, bank my plan on something that's very inconsistent, something that I can't depend on and have that clarity, certainty, and confidence. Okay. Now, retirement community on the other end, on the other hand, they're geared towards your health, towards your social activities, your fun, your convenience, your safety, your security. These communities are built for you, and they're built to save you money on paying for in-home care. And when you're at a retirement community, there's no concerns about industry turnover issues, isolation concerns, and most of the things that they have at a retirement community you can't have or you don't have in your home, right? So those are your options. We're through 3 steps of the framework. The next step of the framework is getting some confidence, okay? We saw our vision, we saw our reality check, we saw what our options are, and now we're going to talk about the confidence you need, the freedom from doubt, the financial assurance, okay? And we did talk something about financial assurance, but taking that a step further to get to your decision, to get you to the 51% off the fence, we need some confidence, and we need a planning system that brings that clarity and that confidence to your housing decision. So there's one way to get more confidence financially is to seek counsel, to meet with a financial planner. When you meet with the financial planner, he'll create a formal financial plan for you. He'll assure you that you will not outlive your funds. You can take that plan to next, the sales director at the retirement community. You get a complete financial analysis from them because they want to assure that you're not going to outlive your funds. And they want to help you decide which community and which unit you're going to take and which one you can afford at the retirement community. Now, if you don't want to take this large step by meeting with a financial planner and meeting with the sales director, you can get together with me, or you can take the planning system on the stayOrGoHomeowner.com website. There's a tab there called resources. The first one is the planning system. The planning system consists of the workbook, the Stay or Go workbook, and also this workbook will only get you so far in the whole planning system. Sooner or later, you're going to have to go into the financial assurance section of the planning system, which is done online. So this workbook will just get you kind of ready, get your thoughts flowing, get through your vision, get through your reality check. You can do that in writing on the workbook, and you can download the workbook from the website, but you can just do the entire workbook, the entire everything with the questionnaire, the Stay or Go questionnaire, And that adds that financial assurance end of things. Okay. Once we have you fill out the entire questionnaire, it takes, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, we'll then return to you a stay or go clarity report. And that is just so cool. To get to the questionnaire, you just go to stayorgohomeowner.com/plan, or just pull down the menu on resources and hit your uh, the planning system. Okay. In the planning system, you'll get the financial assurance by we're going to tell you what your current home is worth and what you would walk away with after paying capital gains taxes. It's much more accurate than Zillow. It's done by a realtor. I do it, every one of them, by hand to tell you exactly what your home is worth and what you'd walk away with after you pay your capital gains taxes. Okay? Because we need information from you. Now, if you're not comfortable giving all of this information, we'll do our best to get you that clarity report. But the clarity report will be most accurate if you do go through these exercises. So the first financial exercise is, I'll tell you what your home is worth and what you're going to walk away with in capital gains taxes. Then if you give us a little bit more information, your age, rough estimate of your income and expenses and your investments and your entrance fee and your monthly fee, give us all that information. It'll go into our actual financial planning tool, and it'll tell you when you will outlive your funds. It's great, and this will all be included in the clarity report. The clarity report is a personalized summary to replace your confusion with clarity, and you can then share this information with the financial planner, with the sales director, with the kids. We're going to tell you or reiterate what you told us, what your vision and what matters most to you. You told us. We're just telling it back to you in this clarity report, so it's all in one place. Gives you a clear view of your current situation. That's the reality. The best fit options for which community matches what you're really looking for in a community. We'll ask you a bunch of questions, and then we'll give you the results of which community matches what you're looking for. Also, we're going to have you prioritize what you're looking for. So that'll give us even a more granular, I guess, narrow down your choices from 10 communities down to, let's say, 2 or 3 communities, because you told us what you're looking for and you told us what your priorities are. Then you've got your financial picture, all of your possibilities, a clear direction forward, your next steps, your homework, and that all comes by just filling out that questionnaire, and then we'll give you back your clarity report. So that's kind of it. We're almost to the end of our presentation. Hopefully you do have some clarity now, right? And what we've found, that when people finally do decide, something really surprising happens. Okay, you've got more clarity. You're sleeping better. You're making better decisions. You're ready to have conversations with people. You're starting to put your plan in place. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's, here's where I'm going. Here's how I'm going to do it. And it just gives you that certainty that you're looking for. So I look forward to working with you. I'm excited for you to fill out your planning system. I would say the next steps in your journey would be to, let's get together and have an appointment. I've been meeting with homeowners for over 20 years. I've heard so many stories, so many different things, and I can use this database I have to help you make good decisions. We can talk during our chat. We can talk on the phone, Starbucks. I can come to your home. We can do it on a Zoom or on a phone call, and we can talk about your capital gains, your estate planning, how you're holding title, things like that. We can talk about real estate 101, what your whole transition timeline is and all of that. We can talk about your home improvements, what you do need to do and what you don't need to do to your home to get it ready to go on the market. We can talk about cash flow, renting your house for a cash flow versus selling your home for a cash out, and what are the pros and cons and red flags of that. We can talk about you occupying your home while it's on the market or vacating your home so that you can sell it without living there. So many different topics we can talk about. Just go to stayorgohomeowner.com at the very top of the web page, there's a place where you can see my calendar. You can put an appointment right on my calendar, tell me what you want to talk about, and we'll get together. I want you to also to keep learning. Remember, lowering your stress is educating and preparing. So learning is important. We have webinars, recordings of webinars. We've already been through this one, the psychology of your decision, preparing your mind for the next chapter. We also talked about should you stay or should you go, how to decide with clarity and confidence. And then when I do come to your home, we'll talk a little bit about Retirement Communities 101, understanding the differences there, but there's a webinar for that and a recording for that you can do. I'll also bring with me the How It All Works pre-transition guide. This is the webinar that talks about what happens before you're on the waiting list, what happens after you're on the waiting list, what happens once you have selected your unit. And it also talks about what happens between the time you select your unit and the time you actually move in. And then finally, there's the Homeowner Flight Plan, which is the final webinar recording. That gives you a stress-free everything you need to know about selling your home from the time you sign a listing agreement till the time the funds hit your account. So that's all there for your learning. It's all free of charge. There's no expectations or strings attached on my part. And at the end of the day, I just want you to know that this decision isn't just about where you live in your home, where you live at a retirement community. It's really about how you want to live. It's about taking time to imagine your perfect future, doing that postcard from the future exercise, prioritizing what you're looking for in a retirement community. What is the most important, second most important, third most important thing? Also, we want to take into consideration, will we outlive our funds? Will we burden other people? And will we stay isolated? And those are things we want to change. Okay. So remember, this is not a one-size-fits-all presentation. Every single one of you out there have a different story. And so I want to meet with you and work with you to kind of guide you down the path. And I lastly just want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, helping me guide you through this important conversation. I know it's not easy. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You haven't done this for your whole life. I've done it for 20 plus years. You're making a large decision here, and you need some help with that. And you need somebody who has been there, done that. And so I would love to be the person that helps you with the next step of your transition. I want you to make things happen. I don't want you to wait for things to happen. I want you to be a proactive homeowner. And I just want you to choose joy for your life. I know you can do it. So thanks so much for being here. I look forward to hearing from you or helping you in the future. Everything's there on the website. And I'm praying for you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.